Hello everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time I'm reviewing a Big Finish audio and it's the Genocide Machine. So here we go, the 7th Big Finish monthly adventure starring Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor and Sophie Aldred as Ace. So the Doctor and Ace land on the planet of Kasharat and they are visiting the library that's there, covered by a temporal barrier created by the Time Lords, and this library is the biggest repository of information in the universe. The Doctor and Ace find that they have created a Wetworks data storage facility, which the Doctor is fascinated by because it would store a lot more data in a very small space. In the meantime, the Daleks have been sitting there waiting for millennia, more or less, to take their chance to infiltrate the library and take over the Wetworks facility. In the meantime, a thief called Bev Tarrant has landed, looking to take away a ziggurat from the planet, which could go for a lot of money. She's basically an artifacts thief, and that ziggurat is actually where the Daleks have been hibernating. Bev's crew is destroyed and killed. The only one that seems to have come back to life afterwards is her partner, in life and in work, Rappel, who actually has been taken over by the local inhabitants of Kasharat. Creatures, or phantoms as they're called, which inhabit water molecules and have minds of their own. These creatures have been used in the Wetworks data storage. Elgin, the library's curator, thought that they were suitable, but didn't realise they were sentient, and the Doctor's not very pleased about this. The Daleks infiltrate the Wetworks. They end up using one of their test subject Daleks, and the Doctor as a conduit to download the data into the Dalek. The Dalek starts questioning the Supreme Dalek and Emperor Dalek's orders, and it ends up with a bit of a frisson and a fight at the end. When the Doctor finds out the situation of what Elgin's been doing, he's not best pleased with Elgin, but ends up still trying to stop the Wetworks and release all the creatures from the Wetworks storage back into the atmosphere of Kasharat. This happens, the Daleks in the Wetworks are destroyed by the creatures, and the Daleks fail their plans for their big invasion to take over the universe, because they wanted the Wetworks storage facility to help with their plans to become the supreme beings of the universe. And that's basically your plot. So overall, let's have a look at some of the characters and some of the main actors in this story. We have the Doctor, played by Sylvester McCoy. This is 7th Doctor, post-Fearmonger, post-Survival, and it shows a different side to the 7th Doctor that we don't see much of. This more inquisitive and intelligent side. There's not as much manipulation. He is part of events here more than anything else. He's not the big planner and manipulator the 7th Doctor's known for. But McCoy plays it like the Doctor, as you normally would, and it's interesting how he manages to hit all the right notes with the 7th Doctor, with his annoyance and the way he plays it, and his relationship with Sophie Aldred as Ace is really strong in this. Speaking of Sophie Aldred, she gets a bit to do here, because Ace gets duplicated by the Daleks, so Sophie gets to play dual roles here of normal Ace, who is the kind of teenage bolshy Ace that we know. She's a bit bored about going in the library initially, all these dusty books and everything, but ends up being part of the main plot with Bev to try and help stop the Daleks, and is a bit tied up in the circumstances like the Doctor, so doesn't do her usual fighting everything. But she does have a Nitro-9 that is used at the end to help destroy the Wetworks facility, but she's kind of taken along with events as much as the Doctor is in this one, so it's interesting seeing that, because usually the two of them are quite protagonists and moving stuff along, but this time they're subject to events. But Sophie Aldred also plays a duplicate version of Ace, and yeah, it gets quite a bit to do, and it's interesting seeing this kind of mechanical version of Ace that's been used in this setup, which I think is quite interesting. You then have the guest cast. You've got Louise Falconer playing Bev Tarrant. You don't see much of Bev Tarrant in this. You can tell she's subject to events a little bit as well, and it's well played by Louise Falconer, but there's not much to Bev in this one. This is the thing with most of the characters. They are just currents in this whole story. They're subject to the Daleks' machinations here than anything else, which is an interesting setup. But yeah, it's played okay by Louise Falconer. I don't have much with the character, to be fair. I think it works quite well. You've then got Chief Librarian Elgin, played by Bruce Montague. What a slimy man near the end. He seems to be quite fawning and whiny for most of it, and his discussion with Prink through most of it is quite interesting, how cataloguer Prink, who we'll get to in a minute, is supposed to be a chatty man. This running joke of Elgin saying, "Oh, Prink is such a chatterbox and leaves so many situations. What do you think, Prink?" And Prink just about to say something and then gets interrupted by Elgin or the Doctor or something like that. And that running joke is actually quite interesting. So Elgin is this kind of man who seems to have a respect for the Doctor. The Doctor's met him before and come back to the library multiple times. In actual fact, he was returning to Carteret to return some juggling books that he took from the library when he really shouldn't have, because this is a big repository of all knowledge in the universe and all the works are there in books, which Elgin is quite studious over. But when the Doctor realises that Elgin has been using the wetworks facility and utilising these creatures when, these people from Carteret, the Carcheratians, the Doctor's not entirely happy with the wet situation that Elgin's created with the wetworks facility and all that's happened in the background for that. And Elgin gets a bit more forewarning and apologetic and mournful as the time goes on, as things are falling apart because his love and joy of the library is being destroyed by the Daleks. I think it's really interesting how that's a turn with the character there. You've then got Prink, who doesn't get to say much, and when he does say something at the end, he's there to save them all from the replicant Ace, who initially gets Elgin hostage when they're trying to escape in the TARDIS near the end, and Prink ends up saving the day by shooting a hole in the duplicate Ace, and letting the Carcerats come in and destroy that Ace, but Prink gets killed in the process. There's not much really said from Ace there. Nicholas Briggs plays Prink in the kind of with not much to say till near the end. It's interesting. It's like it's just a little part that comes in, and I think it makes sense to have Nick Briggs there to do it. You then got Repel, and most of the voices played by Daniel Gabriel. This whispery creature that's coming through, and that kind of watery sound, that bubbly sound you get, is interestingly played the way it's done with Gabriel, and I quite like the way the character's played. There's not much to it. Repel is taken over by the creatures quite early on and is used as a conduit to help communicate with people, but there's not really much more that he does in this story, to be fair. And then you've got the Daleks, which are played by Alistair Locke and Nicholas Briggs. This is the first time that the Daleks have been utilised in Big Finish, and the hallmarks of Nick Briggs' voice as the Daleks is all there. The Emperor voice is there. He's kind of lent his voice more to what we would have in Remembrance and Revelation with some of the Dalek voices in this, which is interesting. Alistair Locke is okay, but there's something not quite right with the effects, which I'll come to in a minute. But yeah, they're the Daleks. They communicate with each other. It's nice to have two different Dalek actors there, again, voicing off each other. I think it works quite well. And it's nice to hear the Daleks on screen, as they are. Nice to hear the Daleks in audio, not on screen, and how they all play against each other. Production-wise and story-wise, it's a strong enough story written by Mike Tucker. I believe it's an adaptation of a novelisation, The Genocide Machine, and you can tell the strength of the script from this, and it's really quite enjoyable. This intrigue all the way through of the Carceratians and what they stand for, the whole plot line of the library, and it's a typical story of using technology, abusing creatures that seems to come up every so often in Doctor Who, which is quite interesting. I like the way plot lines worked out and the way it's all written. The cast work quite well. There's a good rapport between them all, and it shows that Big Finish are starting to get confident in how they do these adventures, and it's the first one I think it actually has a story which is really engaging and really works. And I think with having the tension building up slightly with the introduction of the Daleks throughout the story, the way they're introduced, it shows their devious side, because up till now the Daleks in televisual terms had been basically lackeys to Davros, and this is the first time we actually hear them in any sort of capacity since Remembrance the Daleks, where the Daleks are actually scheming and planning for their own means, and they have their own structure, and the Supreme Dalek and the Dalek Emperor and all that, and it's nice to hear that. Production-wise with the Daleks, I don't know if there is a ring modulator. It doesn't sound like Briggs has actually got they've got the effects completely right with the ring modulator here. It does sound a little hollow. It isn't the Dalek sound that we're used to in the new series, or the Dalek sound we're used to in the old series. It's kind of similar to the kind of effects you got in Revelation. That's possibly where some of the music's come from in regards to the way it's all played out by Nick Briggs, which I'll come to in a minute. But the story itself is very strong. You can listen to it and it just goes at a pace. It's not like there's any silent or quiet bits in it. It really does help lend to the whole strength of the story, this whole planning of the Daleks. And it's the first part of the Dalek Empire arc that Big Finish creates as part of one of the first spin-off series from the Doctor Who audios. So this is the first part of it and the first introduction of it, and it's the first time that we see Beth Tarrant as a recurring character in the Big Finish audio series as well, because she comes back later in Dust Breeding and then becomes a regular in the Bernice Summerfield audio dramas as well. So it's interesting having that character coming in and how she's utilised. Production-wise, though, it's the first one I've actually got fully, properly immersed in since Whispers of Terror. The audio drama format lends itself well to the story, because you can imagine really quickly the jungle and the the situation on Carcharat and the Daleks themselves, and you can really close your eyes and see the whole situation. Some of them are a bit difficult to understand and go into. Land of the Dead is a bit difficult to take into, but this one, the audio and the way it's all written and described really gets you immersed into the world really quickly and really easily, and it's a really strong story for that. It seems like Big Finish are finding their feet now, and they are really getting into it, and it doesn't sound a bit more staid anymore, and the cast is starting to expand a bit. They're not using default cast members that they have done the past few times, so it is starting to become more of a mature audio drama situation, and hopefully with the future audio dramas that I review here, we start to see that development in it overall. I do like this story. I think the music by Nicholas Briggs, it's got elements of Dominic Glynn's kind of musical score in there. The sound effects for the Daleks, the kind of the musical cues are kind of what you'd hear in Roger Lim's Revelation of the Daleks. There is elements of Revelation that come in here at certain points, so all the different styles of the 80s Doctor Who is brought in here when it comes to the musical styles, and it doesn't distract from it, it actually enhances it, and I quite like the way the music is done here. It's directed very well from Nicholas Briggs as well, and I think that's possibly why it all works together, because there's kind of a coherent direction from start to finish here from the direction from Nicholas Briggs, and he does utilise each of the actors very well, and overall I think it's quite an enjoyable romp and an enjoyable audio drama, and certainly one of the ones I go back to and enjoy a lot. For the ratings, this is actually one of the better stories and one of the ones I recommend people to go back to. It's not 100% top tier. There are things that are not quite right with it in regards to the story layout. It's maybe a little bit hard to get into if you don't know the lore of Doctor Who, but overall it's an enjoyable romp. I do like this story, and I actually will give this a rating of 4 TARDISes out of 5. Okay, let's see how that rating fits in with the rest of the Big Finish audios so far. So, the Genocide Machine sits in at the top of the ratings of all the Big Finish audios I've done so far. In the middle, with 3.5 TARDISes out of 5, are the Sirens of Time, Phantasmagoria, Whispers of Terror, the Fearmonger, and the Marian Conspiracy. And at the bottom is the Land of the Dead, with 3 TARDISes out of 5. That's it, guys. Thanks very much for listening and watching this audio review. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit that like button and share it with the hashtag teamstructor, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when a new video comes out. I'm back on Wednesday at 6 PM GMT with a review of a new series story. It is Tooth and Claw. Hopefully you can join me for that. And if you want to help out support the channel, you can go to the Patreon at patreon.com/Deanstructor. For as little as £1 or $1 a month, you can help support the channel. That's patreon.com/Deanstructor. That's it from me for now. Thanks so much, guys, for watching and listening, and I will see you later.